These are the most frustrating features in Minecraft. Enchanting in Minecraft is a confusing mess, and I'm not talking about the gibberish that they have in the text. But what I'm referring to is that when you go for a level 30 enchantment, just to get the only enchantment that was on display. So for example, you take your luck and choose an Unbreaking 3, just to only get Unbreaking 3 on your tool. And now granted, at least it doesn't cost all of your 30 levels to do this, but to take our 3 lapis to do basically nothing here, it's a gut punch, we can call it that safely. Baby zombies are already annoying enough to fight, but that annoyingness gets so much worse when you fight these outside. Since with an incredibly small hitbox, they can sneak in just right into a blade of grass. And now you're hitting the shrubs instead of hitting them. And to make matters worse, they can still hit you, even when they're in the grass. And honestly, I like Simply Sark's solution for this. Let a sword be able to swipe through certain hitboxes like this. I'm not trying to do spring cleaning while I'm trying to save my life. What's the most hated block in Minecraft? While there might be a few to come to mind, I think that we can all agree that one of the worst ones is the ghost block, which usually just happens when you're instant mining at your max reach distance while playing on multiplayer. And once you get that desync between the client and the server, though you think that you mine these blocks, the server doesn't, and now you got ghost blocks blocking your path. And invisible walls have never been fun in any game that you play them in. Plus, nothing makes that speed mining feel a lot worse than when you get slowed down by something that you can't even see. But if you thought invisible blocks are bad, then invisible items are so much worse. And if you've ever had a panic where your pickaxe just suddenly disappeared out of your inventory, then you've unfortunately come across this glitch, which also happens as a result of a desync between the client and the server. And while it's difficult to reproduce reliably, luckily it is able to be fixed. You'll just have to relog into the server to see it again. Or if you're lucky, you can click on just the right inventory slot and it'll appear into your hand like that. Minecraft mob vote's been a contentious thing for a while, but one of the most regrettable decisions comes in the form of the phantoms. Since in a game about exploring, these actively play against that, since unless you bring a bed to sleep every night while you're out and about, these things are like death and taxes, inescapable. And like death and taxes, they'll sweep in at your most vulnerable and make it annoying for both you and the people around you. I think that's why so many people regret choosing B on that multiple choice test all those years back. There's been a lot of conversation nowadays about Minecraft needing a huge inventory rework. Since while the game has added in a bunch of new blocks and different variants and all that, it's given us very few ways to store those inside of our inventory. Especially when you have a large block palette that has different stairs, slabs, pillar variants. It's just too much to keep track of. And while there are mods like Quark that help to make this a lot easier, those are mods. And for those of us unlucky enough to play on the vanilla version, you understand the headache. Now, as a mob, Endermen are a necessary evil, but it's when they start griefing your world slowly piece by piece, that's where it really irks you. They almost make it look like your world erodes over time, taking what used to be a nice looking hill and making it now look like Swiss cheese. But what's even worse is that while you could turn this off with mob griefing, that also turns off a lot of other things that you might feel are cheating. Like, I don't care about creepers exploding, that's at least my mistake. But an Enderman randomly coming in and destroying my redstone contraption, there was nothing I could have done differently, it's just annoying. If you've ever had a mob farm, then you know that a lot of entities can cause a lot of lag. That makes sense when they're mobs, but when you get to things like tile entities, I'm talking chests, item frames, hoppers, that's when it gets a little bit more annoying to bear. Since to a certain level, you need to have those in your base, which I guess also means that you need to have a bit of lag in your base, but that's never seemed fair to me, especially since this can bring down the performance of any PC, regardless of your hardware. According to Mojang, they're aiming for full parity between Java and Bedrock, but when you look at the scorecard, there's still a long ways to go. And for many players, that's a frustrating discrepancy, meaning that when you find something cool covered in a video, there's not always a guarantee that it's going to work in your version. And plenty of people who play on Java have been foaming at the mouth for things like movable tile entities like they do in Bedrock. Or for those who play in Bedrock, you're not able to use all these things in your offhand like we do in Java. And then there's weird ones, like Sweeping Edge doesn't exist in Bedrock. But in fairness to Mojang, they do take steps every update to get us closer to this parity utopia. But what's one small step for Mojang means I probably wouldn't hold your breath for these features to be in both versions. For the technical Minecraft community, almost everything in the game is farmable, except for frustratingly, sand. Now I know there's an infinite sand glitch that's possible with the end portal, but that's just it, a glitch. For one, we don't know if Mojang even wants to keep it in the game, so while you could technically get about one stack at a time from a wandering trader, that's only if the trade's available in the first place. And really, it'd be nice if we had something like Carpet Mod, where we were able to turn our cobblestone into sand like this. That way it'd be intentional, instead of feeling like you're cheating in the back corner of the class. not all Minecraft sounds are created equal, and certain things like gas or Enderman or even the Nether portal could be so much louder than other sounds in the game, which I get that the point's that you're supposed to be able to hear them because they can mean a lot of danger. But when it's impossible to change those sounds particularly without turning down the rest of the sounds in the game and making them nearly silent, then it just gets unpleasant. And even though I love using minecarts for my entity cramming traps, I definitely don't love hearing them. So I usually have to turn my game sounds way down, only to get blown up by a creeper because I wasn't listening after I turned them down. Moving villagers is already an annoyance in itself, but what takes that up to the next level is when you're trying to move around a villager, only to have them suffocate because you placed them inside of a minecart or boat that got a little too close to a corner or ceiling. And now you gotta start right back at square one, all with no guarantee that the next one won't die exactly the same way. Every time that Mojang puts out a new enchantment, I groan a little bit. But it's because when you have a piece of gear that's already been added with enchantments and mending and all that, then when they add in something new like Swift Sneak, then when you go to add it in the anvil, the game will tell you that it's too expensive to have on hand. And it's those two words, too expensive, that just make anvils into a slog. Especially because you can go into creative mode and see that the levels that you would need to do this are 65. Now, I have a great XP farm, so most of the time I'm hanging out at over 65 levels easily. So for us players that are already this far into the late game, just give us the option. Because Minecraft textures are 16 by 16, that no doubt means that you're gonna get some textures that are just off center. Take a look at the command block for instance. You got one less pixel on this side of the button deck than you do on this side, which can be mildly infuriating if you stare at it for too long. Oh, not to mention that some blocks like bricks have top textures that don't align well with their sides, making this whole thing a logical mess. You know this feeling all too well. You're searching in the caves, hours down in the dark, until finally, there it is, a spark of blue shining out from the cave. You go down to mine the diamond, only to find that it's just one ore in the vein. At that point, it even seems wrong to call it a vein at all. You don't even have another diamond to make yourself an enchantment table. At least that way, you'd be able to get fortune on the next diamonds that you find. All this is good for is a jukebox, which is to say, not good for anything. Did you know there's only a 1 in 100,000 chance of getting struck by lightning every tick in Minecraft? That's pretty rare, but you won't feel lucky when that lightning strikes your villager and turns it into a witch. I would have rather bought a lottery ticket if I'm being honest, especially now since I'm not able to buy anything else from the villager. And unlike a villager converting into a zombie, we can't turn them back from a witch. Nope, they're stuck this way. And to make matters worse, they're also annoying to kill. Minecraft paintings have never been particularly useful, but part of the reason for that could be that there's just no odd width paintings. That is, those that are wider than one block. And since a lot of people will build their walls an odd number of blocks in length, that means that we can never have a painting nicely centered on the wall, since the only other options that we got are going to be 2 or 4 blocks wide, which is just about the only thing that can make this ugly painting look worse. If you like to decorate in Minecraft, then you know that things like invisible item frames and armor stands open up a whole new world of things that you can do. A whole new world that's kept to exclusively creative mode. Now, there are things like vanilla tweaks that have survival-friendly ways of getting these into your worlds, but that's an external solution to what should be an internal problem. And even just having an ability to throw down a splash potion of invisibility to make these in survival, that would be so much nicer than whatever this is. Because right now, it means that a whole slew of players are never going to be able to play with these in their worlds. Finding woodland mansions is a pain. Oftentimes, the nearest one of these to you could be over 10,000 blocks away. And in this case, we lucked out. The villager who sold us the map was only 2,600 blocks away from it. Which I say only, but that's still a lot of foot travel. And to make matters worse, sometimes the villagers can sell you a map to one of these, only for the woodland mansion to have failed to generate in those chunks. Yeah, I doubt you're a master cartographer if you can't even tell me this with certainty. They should retract the degree or something. The nether's already dangerous, we don't have to make things worse. So when you get unlucky enough so that your nether portal spawns floating above a lava lake, that's a real tough break. Not just because you're gonna have to spend loads of blocks trying to get over safely to land, but with the risk of gas nearby, they could also make sure that you don't even make it to land in the first place. Honestly, when I see this happen, I'd just rather start over with my nether portal in a different place in the overworld. This isn't worth the hassle. And nether portals aren't just dangerous for us in the nether, but they can also be a problem in the overworld. Since when they happen to spawn zombified piglins, those neutral mobs can walk around and break down the doors in your base, which then makes it easier for actual hostile mobs to come into your base and kill everyone else. And without the ability to turn off the zombified piglins from spawning with things like light levels and that just makes this problem even worse. A librarian villager could be one of the most useful things that you have in your world. But to get that useful villager, you're gonna have to go through a lot of useless variations. And just trying to cycle through all of the different trades to eventually get the enchanted book that you want can take hours. Not in game, but in real life. And then once you've been doing this for long enough, eventually the villager will decide to not even change its trades anymore, and then you gotta wake up the next day and try all again. Most materials in Minecraft that can be crafted into blocks can also be crafted out of them, which makes it even more infuriating when things like nether wart blocks or blue ice can't be crafted down into their base components. Now I get it, nether wart blocks spawn on the crimson funguses that you see in these crimson forest. So if we could get nether warts from them, we wouldn't have to get them from a nether fortress. But then it just makes it insulting that you can craft these in the first place. And suddenly, what would have been used for storing our items really just becomes a waste. What might be more annoying than your villagers dying when you're trying to move them is when you come across a path like this. Since even though a path block is only 1 pixel shorter than the other blocks around it, that slight change means that the boat is not able to go up the height. And now you're stuck to the path. And for a brief moment, it looked like we might have been fixed for this. But then they got patched out of the snapshots too, and now we're just back to it being a bad feature. Shulker boxes are supposed to help out inventory management, but when you have empty shulker boxes, you're actually better off just storing them like this in their uncrafted parts, since empty shulker boxes just do not stack. And the same goes for things like stews, minecarts, even enchanted books of the same type. And it would be such a simple change to let these items stack that I really see no reason not to add these. It would greatly increase the quality of life, but as we've seen through the video, hated features don't really do a good job at doing that. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?